Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to Afterthought, Season 2, Episode
9.
Dude, awesome. I'm very excited today for many reasons. Number one, you probably noticed we've gone back to the microphone stands.
We have.
There's a reason why we've gone back to the microphone stands. The reason is because I can't stop moving when I talk. Which, another reason I'm excited is because Marie is here for one reason and one reason only, to make sure I don't move. I'm supposed to sit like this the whole time.
It's a difficult task.
I'm going to sit like this the whole time and just talk. That was impactful.
Don't even talk with your hands.
I'm really excited for 3 reasons.
Wait.
First.
Hey, hand down.
Sorry about that. Sorry. And the reason why is, you know why? Because every time I talk and I move, I do that, it makes the camera out of focus. And you know what? Faith gets so mad.
I believe it.
You ever seen her mad? No. Livid. Right, like right now, she's so angry. It's the silence.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm. So if I see a hand out of the corner of my eye from this section go, that means scoot back. You did great. Obviously, you're like robotic. Me, on the other hand, I'm like freaking do the Macarena.
That
was not the Macarena. That was the... Okay, so...
That's a strange
But I'm excited for the third reason. The third reason is because we had to get Marie at some point in time to come be a part of the podcast because we're on season what now, my friend?
Season 2.
Right,
Yeah.
and we've done... This is season 2, episode 9, which means we had season 1, 10 episodes, Faith? 15 episodes. And how many did you see, Marie? 3.
She's saying 3, but I still think she's lying.
3. The good news is she's one up on Mom. So our viewership is huge on our staff.
Mom's got an excuse. She was out of commission for 2 months.
True. So, she probably watched 6 and forgot all of them. She's like, did I watch that? I don't know.
She was in bed watching
She was in bed watching it and didn't remember.
Yeah. Ugh. She's back, people.
She's back, people. She's back. Okay, so question for you.
Okay.
What thing, when you were growing up, did I do that you said you'd never do, and now as a dad, you do it?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This is probably different, but I at least always thought I wouldn't coddle my kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he like falls or something, I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, come here!" Here. And sometimes I can fall into that, and then I don't know. It's like
overprotective.
It's an on-off thing. If Marissa's like the coddling one, I'm like, "Suck it up, kid. What's wrong with you?"
Yeah.
Or if she says that, I'm like, "What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Where's mother?" Yeah.
Listen, Marie, what's those things that your mom did that you're like, I'll never do that, and then after you had Janelle, you're like, oh crap, I do it. The welelo? You know what that means?
Isn't it like she punches Janelle right in the face?
That's what it was. She's like, what'd your mom do to you? Punched her in the... Okay, well,
yeah,
that's a blessing.
I never thought I'd do that to
I
Janelle
never
until she
I never
opened her
thought I'd do
mouth
it
for
to
the
Janelle
first
until
time.
she came after me, and I was like, welelo.
All right.
Okay, question.
My first question for you.
Yes, go. Did that? My hand just move? Faith? Did it blur? Did it blur? Did it blur?
I hope not. Because that was a lot of blurring.
She'll edit it out.
Okay. If you don't know this, my dad really likes the Oculus VR headset.
Oh, my God.
What is your favorite Oculus game?
Man. I'm afraid to say it because then I get emails from people. It's The Walking Dead. The greatest Oculus game. Matt knows what I'm talking about. The greatest. Yeah, you know why? Because it scares me to death. I'm a grown man playing Oculus in my house, and a zombie comes up behind me, and I'm like, oh my gosh! It scares me to death.
Yeah.
I have punched the Christmas tree. I have punched the fireplace.
Yeah.
I've run into a chair. I've fallen over on the floor because the zombies scare me. They have 2 versions.
Like 2 games
Like
or
2
2
They
versions?
have 2 games. So they have.
Gotcha.
What do you call it? Version 1 and version 2?
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
Yeah. Oculus is the best. What about you? Oculus? Favorite?
I don't know. I haven't played it in so long, I don't even remember the names of the games. I think Echo VR was pretty dope. It's like Space Ultimate Frisbee.
It's so much
which
fun.
is fun.
I love it. I feel like I'm so not into this podcast right now because I can't move. I feel like I'm trying so hard not to move that I'm like, my favorite game of all time this Oculus Walking Dead. What do you think, Austin? I feel like I'm not moving at
Doing
all.
the Macarena.
Faith loves it right now, though, because she's like, this will be the best edit of my life.
That was crazy. That was spot on impression.
It was. You know what I love about this is like she's so into it right now. Faith is texting feverishly on her phone. She's like, I'm gonna edit that out. These guys are morons. Can't stand working with them. Look at her. Okay, we shifting gears now?
Oh, you don't have another question?
No.
Oh, well, I have one more for you.
Okay.
Okay.
You have to
So
look it up?
this is a controversial one. That's why I wanted to ask it.
Oh gosh.
So I want you to list these movie franchises from best to worst.
Okay.
In your opinion.
Okay.
So there's 5 of them.
Okay.
Star Wars.
Okay.
The Avengers.
Okay.
Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
Dark Knight trilogy.
Okay.
And Toy Story.
Best ever, Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Second best, Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
Third best, Marvel.
Okay.
Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Toy Story.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I can't argue with it, but
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be a lot of people upset
Oh
about
my
the
gosh.
Dark Knight
There will
trilogy.
be. I know.
Yeah.
This Star Wars is the best.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the best
Can't
ever.
even deny it.
No. And Marvel was okay, but Harry Potter, oh my gosh. Are you kidding me right now? I just saw like on Instagram there's like a Harry Potter cruise ship right now. Have you seen it?
No, but I want to go now.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out how we're going to go. Let's shift gears, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of questions you have about this Giving Unleashed series?
Yeah. I mean, you kind of talked about Elsaology.
Yes.
Yeah. Would you like to expand on that
I do.
little bit for everybody?
So I don't know if our friends out there have seen a movie called. Do you know what it's called?
Oh, Frozen. Sorry.
Frozen. Anyone seen Frozen out there? Anybody? Frozen? There's a song from that. I don't know if you've ever heard it before called Let It Go. Let it go, let it go. So I think the Elsaology is this. I think that so many times we're holding on to things in our life, but we have to let go of what we have for God to let go of what he has. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to be stingy and hold on to the very thing God's given you and not return it back to God, then you're not going to understand the stewardship concept that it's God's anyway. And so I've got to let go of what's in my hand for God to let go of what's in his hand. So he's not going to bless stinginess. He's going to bless surrender. He's going to bless sacrifice, right? He's going to bless that giving spirit. So I think the idea of Elsaology is let go of what's in your hand for God to let go of what's in his hand. Because the scripture talks about how he wants to bless us, but he's not going to bless greed. He's not going to bless pride. He's not going to bless selfishness. So he will bless that which is given, and, you know, especially the tithe. The tithe is not we give the tithe, we return the tithe.
Yeah.
The tithe is his anyway. So the Elsaology is let go of what you've got in your hand so God can let go of what's in his hand to give back to you.
For sure. And to add on, how would someone do that? Like, say someone really struggled letting go of their finances.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
I think the best way to do that is to first remember that it's not your finances.
Yeah.
That's the toughest thing on the planet is the Bible talks about stewardship. Stewardship just means you're a keeper of it, or it's not yours. It is someone else paid for it. Someone else created it. Someone else, they just have asked you on planet Earth to take care of it. Like, okay, I remember years ago when I was having some problems with the bank, and I called the bank, and they had to verify it was me. And they're like, we're going to ask you three questions. One of the questions that they asked me was, out of these 4 cars, which one do you own? And one of them was a Hyundai Elantra, which it was Alyssa's car, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I own the car. It was in my name, but she drove the car, right? So mom and I paid for the car. She just drove the car. So it wasn't her car, but she would always say, it's my car. Well, no, it's not your car. It's not in your name. It's in my name.
Right.
So we just allowed you to drive it. You were a steward of what we gave you, right? So I think the concept to understand is like we are just stewards of what God gives us. So it's not yours because I've never seen a hearse pulling a U-Haul, right? So it's not like you're gonna die and take it with you. It is the concept that it's all God's. And the more you recognize it's all God's, the better off you'll be by giving it back to God. So that's kind of the Elsaology mentality, if you will, is if you recognize it's not yours to begin with, it's going to be so much easier to give it back to God anyway.
For sure.
Like it should have been easy for Alyssa to say, here's the keys. It's not my car anyway, right? It's your car. It's in your name. You bought it for me to use. And I think the problem we get into is when we think it's all ours, it's not God's, and then we keep it from him, then God's like, man, the quicker you understand it's all mine, the quicker I'll give it back to you.
For sure. I mean, you look in Scripture, and people were literally giving everything they had
Everything.
to go follow Jesus.
Everything.
They just, like, gave it away and then followed him. And that's just a crazy concept for me to even think of. Like, I couldn't imagine just giving up everything that I have, everything that I've worked for, and then just going. And obviously that's what God wants us to do, but he's not asking us to give everything.
Yeah.
You know, but it's a heart thing. You have to know that this isn't all mine.
Well, and the control of money. Like we love to say it doesn't control us, but it does. Like the very reason why it was so difficult to start a church was because of money. Mm-hmm. I had the obedience, I had the surrender. I didn't have the money. And so the very thing that was keeping me from starting the church was what do we do for salary? What do we do for rent? What do we, you know? And so it shouldn't be like that. You look at the disciples. The disciples dropped their nets and they walked away from their vocation to follow Jesus. And someone look at Matthew, the tax collector, walked away from his vocation to follow Jesus. I mean, that's just not walking away from your vocation. That's walking away from your paycheck. That's walking away from your confidence, your credibility, right? Your identity. And so those are difficult things. And I think the Lord knows that if your money has, it's not that it's not bad for us to have stuff. It's when your stuff has you.
Right.
And it's when the stuff that you have controls you. And so that's the idea of worship, or the mindset of putting God first, is recognizing he's first in just not some areas of my life. He's first in every area of my life, especially in my money, because we love to control money. And I think the maturity of following Christ is understanding that the fellowship, if you will, or the discipleship of following Christ is not recognizing that I am a follower of him in some areas. Oh my gosh, I love to worship. I love to pray. I love to read the Bible. I love to hear sermons. But giving, you can't say that you're a mature Christian if you don't give, because that's an immaturity to not recognize that you don't follow him in every area. So I think that's important to understand that, you know, you have to be able to put him first in every area, just not some areas.
Yeah. You also talked about being devoted to following, but also being devoted to learning. Yeah. Can you explain the difference of what those mean?
Yeah, like I think the idea of being devoted to following Jesus is, I think a lot of people say, okay, think about VMAs. Think about the Grammys. What people get up and go, I want to give all thanks to Jesus, right? But are you following Jesus, or are you learning to be like him? Because I know a lot of people that say they follow him, but they're not living for him, right? And I think that's the understanding of discipleship. Discipleship is I'm gonna fully embrace every call of God on my life, just not some. So full commitment, full discipleship says I'm just not loving Jesus, I'm living for Jesus, right? Full discipleship says I'm just not hearing his word, I'm living his word. I'm just not surrendered to him, I'm sacrificing for him, right? I'm just not talking about being a giver, I'm actually living the life of a giver. And I think that's the concept of following versus learning. And a lot of people, I'm coming to church and I'm learning, but they'll never leave and follow through with what they learned. And, you know, I remember growing up hearing people, you know, they would go to a church and they would, why are you going to that church? Oh my gosh, the teaching's so deep. The pastor's so deep, so deep, so deep. Well, tell me what's so deep about his sermons? What's so deep? It's so deep. Well, what does he say that, well, I don't know. I don't understand it. I'm like, well, so is not understanding synonymous with depth?
Deep, yeah.
Because for me, depth is synonymous with obedience. And so I'd rather walk away from a message and go, that was deep because I understood it, and now I got to go try it. Now I have to go live it.
For sure.
Versus that was deep, I have no idea what they talked about. Yeah. I am so confused right now, as opposed to that was deep, now I want to go and live it out.
For sure.
And I think that's the call of God in our lives. The devoted follower says, I'm just not learning from Jesus, I'm following Jesus, right? I'm just not listening to him, I'm hearing him. You know, so those are the kind of things.
Yeah, for sure. It was similar to me. This is how I viewed it in school. Yeah. Where the teacher would teach something and I had no clue what was going on. Yeah. But I was too afraid to ask a question because I thought I would sound stupid. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, you don't learn anything because you never asked the question. So it's very similar. If you're coming to church and you don't understand what's going on, ask somebody. That's what we're here for. Exactly. It's part of discipleship. It's part of ministry is you're not supposed to walk away learning less than when you came in.
Yeah.
Like more confused.
Yeah.
So if you ever have a question on the weekend because you just didn't understand anything, you didn't grasp a certain thing,
right?
Come find anyone on staff here. Come find a volunteer. Type it in the comments on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's so many ways, or even just Google it, do some research on your own, because you're going to find out so many things on your own. It was with me when I went to college.
Yeah.
I really didn't take school very seriously, if I'm being honest. I'm like the first Asian ever to not. But when I went to school, I skimmed everything. I never really actually learned. I followed all the things I was supposed to do. I did the homework and everything, but I never actually learned anything.
You went through the routine.
Exactly. So same thing with church. You can come to church, do all the things you're supposed to, but at the same time, you're not following, or you're not learning anything like you said. As soon as I came out of church and I started going into ministry, I was like, I know nothing.
Yeah.
I have to relearn everything on my own. So as opposed to relearning everything that you've already done all the work for, you might as well just learn as you're doing the work.
Well, and you know what? The reason why most people, I shouldn't say most people, a majority of people, if you will, don't like to go to a church when they're talking about a giving series, it's because it's not what they want to hear.
Yeah.
But
it's challenging.
It's that they need to hear it.
Yeah.
It's not that they want to hear it. And so typically what we'd rather do is skip out or complain about it because we don't want to hear the conviction of what we need to hear. But sometimes, most of the time, the conversations people have with me that I don't want to hear, I need to hear.
Right.
And it's the conversations you need to hear that change the person you're becoming. And so I would say that's the challenge of maturity in Jesus. You know, like the things that Christ speaks into your life that you don't want to hear are probably the things that you need to hear. Like the people around me, the friends around me that tell me the stuff that I don't want to hear are probably the things that I need to hear to make me better, right? So that's when I talked about the challenge of this sermon series, like this would be the sermon series where you come in and go, I'm just not going to learn.
Yeah.
I want to follow. I'm just not going to come in and go, well, it's not what I want to hear. Man, I need to hear it, because if I want to be mature in following Christ in every area of my life, then I want to mature in the area of giving. And so I think that's the concept that's so hard for us, is to come in and want to be convicted, but it's the conviction that helps change you into the likeness of Jesus.
Yeah, I would say if you're not feeling challenged, if you're not hearing things that you probably don't want to hear about yourself, you're not growing at all.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way to grow. It's the same thing when you're like in football being coached or whatever. If you run a route wrong, the coach isn't going to be like, good job, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
No, because then you're going to keep on doing it wrong, and it's not going to benefit anyone.
100%.
The only way that you're going to learn and get better is if you're going to be coached and learn from it. So.
Well, and I would say majority of all people come to church on a Sunday not to waste their time, but to grow in Jesus.
Yeah.
And growth is always hurts. Mm-hmm. It'd be like if you didn't go to the gym for a year and then you go to the gym for one time and the next day you're sore and you're so mad that you're sore. Well, what'd you expect?
Yeah.
You didn't go to the gym for a year and then you worked out the next day. You're like, well, dang it, I'm sore. Well, of course, because you didn't work out that muscle. Mm-hmm. So when you start giving, when you start worshiping the Lord, when you start reading His Word, there's going to be some of your spiritual life that's a little sore. It's because you haven't worked out that part of your spiritual life yet.
Yeah.
And so that's the part that grows. Everyone wants to be mature. No one wants to develop in maturity.
Yeah.
But it's the development that makes you mature. It's the difficult situations. It's the life-hard circumstances that make you mature. And so everyone just wants the blessing of maturity, but they don't want to go through the burden of becoming mature. And I think that's the same thing when it comes to giving, following Christ, reading His Word, praying, being in His Word. That's the development that makes you the mature person you want to be. And just so you know, you're always going to have those moments of just increased strength where you come to church and go, man, I needed to hear that, mm-hmm. right? And I didn't want to, but gosh, I needed to. And that's what's going to make you better. It's what develops you in the likeness of Jesus.
Yeah. And I think you said your spiritual life is going to hurt because of these growing pains. I think your physical life is going to hurt too, because as you're going through these growing things, you're going to start learning more so right from wrong. God's going to start closing doors and opening different opportunities. But 100%. They're going to be the opportunities that you didn't want, but that you needed.
100%.
Different things like that are going to happen. So you're just going to maybe be a tough time, but at the same time, it's going to be a great growing opportunity.
You know, I was just like right before this podcast, I was sharing, I was processing and sharing that there are some like crazy, awesome, generous people in our church, and not because of the amount they give, but because the heart they give with. And I love seeing the generosity of our church. And I've said this before, our church wasn't built on the gifts of one, but the sacrifices of many. And that's what I love about the heartbeat. So the idea is like, are we doing this service because Anchor needs, lights over the stage? Well, yeah, but not because we're not doing that series, or we're not doing this series because we need a new sound set. We're doing this series because God wants your heart. So I think the best way for us to focus on this is like, it's not that tithing is a financial issue, it's a faith issue. Mm-hmm. And if we're going to mature in every aspect of our spiritual walk, we have to also grow in this one as well. So it's like, man, I just wish that Pastor Sean would talk about worship every Sunday because I love worship. Well, giving is worship. I wish Sean would talk about prayer every Sunday because I love prayer. Well, if you're engaged in your prayer life, the Holy Spirit's going to speak to you and tell you what to give. So it all ebbs and flows on this idea of maturity and discipleship. We just have to stay in that vein to be able to hear it.
For sure. I love how you tied that in. It's not a financial, it's a faith thing.
Yeah.
I would say, I think a lot of people don't like coming to church for giving sermons because they don't know exactly what the money in the church goes to. They see all these things like profit and watches or preachers and sneakers. They're like, oh, he's just trying to get a salary for himself type thing. Can you explain some of the things that the money will be going to just as the year goes on, just regular tithing and everything?
Yeah. I would say a couple things on that. I have so much to say on that.
Oh, yeah.
But sometimes I think it's you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And I'm going to share it like this. Okay, I was contemplating as I'm talking if I'm going to share this or not. I'm going to share it because I think it'll be understanding. We have to be very careful to not become judgmental. Mm-hmm. When Mom and I first got married, right, we built a house. I was a youth pastor, making no money. I had no insurance. I had nothing. Right, I was making minimum money. She was a captain in the Air Force. A youth pastor at a church. Church wasn't very big. It was like 100 people. And we built a house, right? We built a house. And we had people in the church that went bonkers because we built a house. Like, where in the world did they get this money to build this house? What people don't know is that Teresa was married before me, and she was married for just a few months, and her husband died of cancer, right? And so when he died of cancer, she got life insurance money. So we built the house with life insurance money. So people in the church, once they found out that we built the house with life insurance money, they were like, oh my gosh, we had no idea. Like, no, the house wasn't built with your tithe. It was built on someone's death.
Yeah.
And I remember they're like, oh my gosh, we're so sorry. Well, you shouldn't have opened your mouth to begin with. You have no, it's not my job to judge people's, you have no idea, right?
So
where,
I
have a watch that I wear and some people bust on. I'm like, my dad died and I got a watch. You have no idea where it came from. And so I would say, number one, we got to be very, very careful of the judgmental spirit because you don't want that judgment on you. So you don't want to give it to other people.
For sure.
And so we got to be careful as a church to not have a judgmental spirit because we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And I would also say that when we give, we're giving to trust the leadership of the church to be able to, to do what they, do with what they do. And, but some of the things, we brought up this last year that we just started with, supporting 10 brand new ministries. Now we support more than 10, but just 10 brand new ministries.
Yeah.
We're supporting, I just think I told you this past or 2 Sundays ago, Ground Zero Ministries. We're building churches in Cuba, which is amazing.
Super cool.
We've already built church in Costa Rica, which that's an ongoing ministry, right, Marie? That's still happening. We're still giving to them every single month. For kids, single moms, there's so many ministries, right? So we're doing we do a lot in external ministries. We probably maybe could get better at talking more about that. I mean, we support so many. It might be great for us. We're trying to process through how to share with that. I would say most of that probably goes to external sources. But the work of the church still goes on. I mean, rent is a huge amount. The cool thing is God's blessed us. We have a great building for it's a really good cost, but we live in an economic struggle right now, right? So I would say all those things, to answer your question, is we are giving as a church. We're giving to missions. We're giving to ministries. We have staff. We have building. We have electric bill. And imagine a 30,000 square foot building. The electric bill is not $6 a month, right? So there are things like that because just like in your house, if your house is 1,500 square feet, your bill might be a little different in your electric situation than it is for a 30,000 square foot building. And there are things because of the size of our church. As our church grows, up goes the cost of water, and up goes things like that. And the impact of giving in a church, like our church has grown significantly, but because we have new Christians, right, that don't understand the concept of maturity in giving yet, the attendance has shot up, but the giving doesn't shoot up with it. There has to be a teaching that goes along with, a learning that goes along with. So the church has grown fast, but now the giving has to catch up, and that's the price. That's the cost of understanding maturity, things like that. But all that to say, I think when we give, I think what we understand we're giving to is I'm giving to the Lord. Mm-hmm. I'm not just giving to Anchor Church. I'm giving to the church and trusting the leadership that God has called to be able to use the money I give to support the ministries that I'm a part of. So I think that we could do a better job. We as a church could do a better job of communicating all the things we're a part of. But number two, as a church, we could always do a better job of having a non-judgmental spirit.
For sure. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I just wanted to have that answered because, first of all, like you said, our attendance has shot up. God has blessed us immensely. So there's a lot of people who probably missed when we shared all the ministries that we're giving to. But at the same time, for all the people who don't know all the ministries that we're giving to, that's where the bulk of what you give goes to. Right. And that's why we put an emphasis on we're not just giving to Anchor Church, we're giving to the church, the bride of Christ as a whole. Right. So thank you for ansering that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That might not have been exactly how everyone wanted to be answered. I was trying to be as honest
I thought it was great.
as possible.
Yeah.
But, I think the other thing is to recognize that we're a new church,
Yeah.
And if, we came from a large church, California, and then in Florida. And so you come from a large expression that's been around for 30 or 40 years. You kind of anticipate that everything's going to be like that. We're still a toddler, man. We're still kind of figuring some of these. And I know we have to get better at that. And we are getting better at that. But I think with the fast growth of the church and the impact of the church, ministry costs. And I think we're figuring all of that out. But that's what I think is amazing about the generosity of our church. We have an extremely generous church that always gives and are extremely incredible. I just think we can always mature in those areas.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's all I got.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Afterthought, which, by the way, I had a lot of people say they loved the last Q&A.
Oh.
They loved the last Q&A. So maybe we'll have to do that again.
Thanks
Faith.
for all the questions, Alyssa.
I know. Gosh. Hey, have a good week, everybody. We'll see you next Sunday. Well, hey, everybody. We hope you loved this episode of Afterthought. If you did like it, make sure you comment. Let us know your thoughts. Share it with a friend. Hey, we're dropping new material every single Wednesday.
Yeah. We know you like the video, so leave a like and subscribe because, like you said, we're going to have a video coming every Wednesday. Turn on those notifications so you know when it comes out. You can check it out.
See you next week.